This morning on The Dish, we travel to the north for Mimi Chinese. Eater says of the chic Toronto restaurant, Chinese for beautiful, beautiful, Mimi is a stunner. Paired with dazzling decor or diverse dishes from throughout the Chinese provinces, from Shandong to Sichuan. Brooke Silva Braga sat down with the young duo doing authentic Chinese cuisine in their own style.
Go in with the spoon, actually. Get a little bit of the broth.
David Schwartz is certain what you should want,
You eat this one with your hands.
whether you knew you wanted it or not.
Take a little of the rice, put it in your bowl.
From the food to the vessel,
Bowl or plate?
Bowl. That's a good question as well.
to the way your eyes adjust as you step into his restaurant.
But you told me the #1 complaint is people say it's too dark.
And people say it's too dark. For us, it's perfect.
If Mimi Chinese is perfect, the glowing reviews suggest it's close, it's because low-key partner and friend Braden Chung has managed to help harness Schwartz's obsessive sense for perfection.
People assume there's like a box we keep in the wall here, and I just open the box at the end of the night. I go inside in the morning, somebody lets me out.
Yeah.
There's a reason that we work well together and that we've been friends for this long.
Right.
Okay. You balance each other out.
I think so.
I think so.
I hope so.
Mimi Chinese is also a balance, dishes aiming for the authenticity of a Chengdu street corner served in an upscale Toronto dining room.
4-piece gift turnip to 501.
Some potential investors recoiled, fearing it would be too Chinese for Western diners and not Chinese enough for those who grew up on chashu pork
This is a 3-day process.
or whole fish.
And inside is actually an aged tangerine peel.
More audacious still, the restaurant wouldn't focus on one Chinese food tradition,
Chicken with Sichuan peppercorn.
say Sichuan food or Cantonese,
Once you deep fry it, it gets like this glass texture.
but instead deliver dishes from across China,
As you'll notice, your mouth will be like tingling.
a bit like the same restaurant serving Southern barbecue and New England clam chowder. Even Schwartz credits some of their success to the blind confidence of youth.
How old are you?
28.
28.
31, actually.
He'll take on things that I'm like, are you sure? And he'll be like, let's do it. We're gonna make the rice noodle rolls.
One of those leaps was hiring Chung as head chef.
Okay, and you're controlling it with your knee.
With your knee. So this controls
Yeah,
the
okay.
fire.
Though he grew up eating his family's native Cantonese food, most of his own cooking experience was in high-end Western kitchens.
In Canada, at least, you know, the standard, the gold standard is European, French, maybe Italian restaurants.
And those were the restaurants you wanted to work in.
When I was younger, yes, it was like, okay, well, if they're #1, I want to work for them.
He also trained at Michelin-starred restaurants in Japan, and at Mimi melds all that fine dining sensibility with old-school technique.
Do you have any trouble your first time doing this?
First time was a nightmare. I didn't know what I was doing.
How long does it take to learn?
Many hundreds of hours.
Oh.
The reward is the subtle, unique wok flavor of stir-fried rice noodles.
There's just that little bit of char as like this different kind of flavor.
So I actually live around the corner.
Okay.
And I've eaten at probably every single place in Chinatown.
Maybe, ironically, it's Schwartz, a Jewish kid from the Toronto suburbs who's long been consumed with Chinese cooking.
I spend all of my off time eating at these places. I still do. It's like all that I do.
His dad led weekly trips to spots like King's Noodle, and when Schwartz lost his mom at age 12, just as his older sisters left the house, the lunches with Dad took on added meaning.
For a good chunk of my life, yeah, it was my dad and I. We would go out for dim sum every Sunday, and he would and still will eat absolutely anything. So tripe, chicken feet, tendon, like all of those things I was exposed to really early on, and now they're my favorite textures and things to eat.
Convincing others to embrace those cuts
I don't want. Do I want this?
I
don't want
like
this.
it.
can be more of a challenge.
So we have a dish called husband and wife beef. We use shank, tripe, and tendon. It's like a great way to trick people into eating tripe and tendon who otherwise wouldn't.
Were you concerned at all when you put it on?
I was, actually. When we opened, I didn't put the tripe and tendon on the actual menu. I just put like 3 kinds of beef or something. And then we changed it, and it worked out really well.
Is that just a fun thing to do, or is that part of what you're trying to accomplish?
It's definitely part of what we're trying to accomplish.
The mission extends to their website, which actually promotes and recommends competing Chinese restaurants, ones that have inspired Schwartz.
Drinking out of a Pandya?
Because Mimi's secret sauce isn't a hidden ingredient,
Where else can you do that?
but a certain vibe
For this step, feel free to take any photos or videos if we want.
used to generate fresh interest in ancient recipes.
So the smacked cucumber.
What does the smacking do?
You'll see a lot of like crevices and cracks in there, which
Yeah.
is where all the seasoning gets like trapped. People come to us and like, that's the best cucumber we've ever had. And we're like, there's a reason why people did this. And it was like, okay, well, this makes sense and we should keep doing this. So
The best compliment that we can get is someone who lived in Sichuan and says, this brings me home, it tastes like home. That's what we wait for every night. And when it happens, we can go to sleep and rest easy.
You don't seem like an easy rester.
I don't know what makes you say that, but I sleep pretty well.
I have a different perspective, but that's just how our dynamic is.
Okay, the noodles would not travel from Toronto, so I've brought drinks at least.
What is the drink? What did you bring us?
So this is the world's most consumed spirit, baijiu, which you, if you ever go to China, a lot of nights end up with way too much of this stuff.
Cheers.
Bottoms up, everybody.
It's
Is it
sort of
one
famous
or
as
just
one
a sip?
shot?
You can go either way. You can go either
A
way.
little sip.
That noodle was crazy.
It's the 4-foot noodle, and they've kind of made a lot of hay out of this. They posted on Instagram. Even the server says, if you want to take a photo, take a photo. And then they cut it up.
They
at the
cut
table.
it.
It sort of famously can be hard to choke down sometimes.
Yeah.
That has a little afterkick, by
Yeah,
the
it
way.
does.
I was like, oh, that's smooth.
Jeff,
oh.
why aren't you drinking?
Because I don't want it. I love that they recommend competing restaurants.
Yes, I do too.
Right?
They see themselves
Like
as
the confidence
ambassadors,
in that.
ambassadors for the food.
JP and Elia Park, the husband and wife team pushing Korean food to new heights. The park started with Otto Boy and Otto Mix, two restaurants in New York City that have received near universal acclaim. Otto Mix was just named one of the top 10 in the world on the world's 50 best restaurants list. Their latest Naro is a throwback, a fine dining establishment serving more traditional fare. JP and Elia Park's latest restaurant is smack dab in the middle of Rockefeller Center. A dining destination that looks modern, but serves the opposite. To honor their heritage, the Parks reached back centuries to pull together their menu. Dishes also featured in the Korean cookbook, co-authored by JP. I have to ask, I see the scissors,
Yeah, scissors, you know.
and there's a toothbrush.
Yeah, this is another special tool to clean down the abalone.
Okay. We started in the kitchen, preparing yukjep anshe with JP. The first task, shucking abalone. That's easier than oysters.
Much easier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little worried.
And also one of the beautiful part of the abalone is the
Gorgeous.
inside.
Look at the shine of it.
Inside of the shell, it's like really shining. So sometimes a lot of the restaurant using this abalone shell as a decoration for the serving with abalone.
Cool. With the abalone, shrimp, radish, bamboo shoots, pine nuts, finely chopped by hand, and a Korean mustard. All of it served in broth made from brisket. For you, what is Korean food?
I mean, Korean food is like our language.
JP worked in kitchens in London, Melbourne, and Seoul before he and Elia moved to New York in 2012. They opened Otto Boy in 2016. That was followed by Otto Mix, recently ranked 8th on the world's 50 best restaurants list. Otto is the ancient Korean word for gift. The park's latest restaurant is Naro. It seems like you guys, more than anyone, are really allowing Korean food to have its moment.
Thank you.
And that's got to feel pretty special.
When I got married to JP, he told me, I want to change the world with my food.
I want to change the world.
I want to change the world. And I didn't know what that means, but I can feel now with his food, what we love about the Korean cuisine, now the world is changing. They're opening their mind to adopt more Korean food and Korean culture.
At the park's restaurants, whether it's formal or casual, you get a multi-course set menu.
Wagyu King.
And everything is authentically Korean. The lighting, bar, even the ceramics. Perfectly designed details from a duo with perfectly designed roles.
You're back of the house and you're front of the house, basically.
Basically.
That's the split.
Yeah. So she's the face of the restaurant, and I'm just like behind the scene, you know. So yeah.
It's working out okay.
So far, so good. So our work is our art and our show. And our show, JP is our director, the creative director. I'm the producer.
Oh,
so
nice.
he's an artist. And when he says something, I'll make it happen. So far, good balance.
Our menu featured tong pianse, mung bean jelly with chilled vegetables and chokunchang, striped jack, raw fish with cucumbers.
And what is this?
That is 감자전. So 감자전 is literally means like potato fritter or potato pancake, almost like kind of hashy brown.
It looks amazing.
It's like the
Yeah, it's like hash brown.
Yeah, hashy brown. So we like thinly julienne was slicing the potato, and then we just bake it, almost like hashy brown way, and
Wow.
then serving with the pine nut cream.
That's insane.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite dish.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
There was also an amazing Wagyu meatloaf, baked in a soy glaze and served with mussels and red mustard.
It's a lot of the flavors going on, a lot of the textures going on.
Amazing.
Too. Yeah.
Wow.
So happy to see your smile.
It's really good.
Next, a little KFC, Korean fried chicken, served with a rice cake and a chili mayo dipping sauce.
This sauce is awesome. I mean, it's awesome
not too
sauce.
spicy.
Yeah.
Not too spicy.
No, it's not too
Good.
spicy.
Yeah, it's
It's
like really
brilliant.
flavorful. Yeah.
For dessert, ganjang pecan, chocolate cake with pecan praline, coffee ice cream, and gold leaf for an added touch of luxury. Washing it all down, an Ibchu shrub mocktail with grape, seedlip grove, Korean pepper, prickly ash, and yuzu. It is the kind of food you won't find anywhere else right now. The parks know it and are soaking up every minute of the experience they've been allowed to share.
We kind of on a good ride, you know. So
It's a damn good ride. It's a really good ride. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
They are so sweet, and they've been working so hard at this. I don't know how they do it with the 3 restaurants now. It's just nonstop for them. But I brought you guys some Korean fried chicken.
Yeah.
With the Korean mustard here, and also you have to try the chili mayo dipping sauce, which is, I'm just gonna use my fingers, but
I like the kick in the chili.
So tender.
it's so good.
I really want to try
And it's like cleaner. This is the Korean. I thought this fried chicken was not like
It's not overly fried.
super
like,
greasy and gross. Like yes,
Right.
it's still fried, but I think it's.
Well, it has very little breading on it. And I think that makes it kind of interesting, you know?
And I love the sauce.
This morning, our series, The Dish, highlights a restaurant making a name for itself by blending classic American food with Korean flavors. It's called Nowon, and it's growing in popularity right here in New York City, and it's expanding. I took a trip there to meet its inspiring owner, Chef Jay Lee, and to get a taste of the food with a special story served on the side. Here at Nowon in Manhattan's East Village, the food may seem like your typical American fare, but bite by bite, the eclectic tastes are one of a kind.
Can I taste the marshmallow fluff, by the way?
It's exactly what Chef Jay Lee set out for when opening this unique Korean-American gastropub. What would you say was the inspiration for Nowon?
I wanted to display my Korean heritage, but as well as my New York American heritage, because I'm both. So you'll find a lot of familiar dishes. When you look at it visually, you've had it before, but when you eat and you taste the food, you start to notice that there's flavors in the dish that's very unique, which is a Korean element.
Lee opened this restaurant 4 years ago. The name? A nod to his hometown, Nowon, South Korea, where he lived before moving to America with his family. Do you have a memory of when you first arrived here as an 8-year-old boy?
I went from being really popular in Korea to not speaking the language in America. For the first time, I'm like, wow, like I don't know if I really belong here.
Eventually, during his college years, Lee found a sense of belonging in the kitchen, learning to sprinkle a little bit of his heart and self into each recipe. How much of an influence was your Korean upbringing in the way that you developed your menu?
Very much so. It's really all I knew. I've never had my first burger up until I was 9 years old. Can you believe that? 9 years old.
I can't believe that.
And I didn't even know what a sloppy joe was. I didn't know what tater tots were. Delicious.
Lee's come a long way to now running a restaurant that's growing harder to get into, with reservations filling up weeks in advance, even at its newly opened second location in Brooklyn. Oh my gosh. So while I had a seat, I figured it was time to do some investigative journalism.
There you go, Vlad.
Thank you. By digging in. So what do we got?
Korean street food meets New York street food, a chopped cheese sandwich. So chopped cheese rice cakes. This is our honey garlic butter tater tots, inspired by the honey butter chips that was really popular in Korea. Korean fried chicken sandwich we call Jay's chicken bun. We're known for fried chicken in Korea. I thought fried chicken was Korean. I'm not even kidding. I thought KFC was Korean fried chicken.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And then this is our legendary cheeseburger. My favorite burger in New York growing up as a kid was a Big Mac. Quintessential burger.
2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles.
Special sauce, there you go. And I'm like, you know, that's what I have to do. That's literally what I just have to do.
You followed that model.
Yes.
In creating
this. But with high quality beef, with homemade special sauce, with a Korean touch. Add some homemade roasted kimchi in there, and there you go.
I gotta take a
Please.
I could eat this every day of my life and be happy.
We're gonna make our legendary cheeseburgers.
So Chef Lee invited me into his kitchen.
Butter the bread.
To teach me how to flip my favorite food into a total masterpiece.
While that's toasting up, we have this 4-ounce patties.
The top selling item on Nowon's menu.
Take this smasher, smash it down.
Really?
Smash it down. Perfect. Scrape the meat right at the bottom. There you go. And give it a nice flip. Perfect. Slice of cheese on top of each patty. All right. See that?
Gosh, that's awesome. Let's talk about toppings.
We're gonna start with this kimchi special sauce. 3 pickles, roasted kimchi. Now we're ready for the patty.
Okay. Look at that.
All right, Vlad, your shift starts tomorrow at 5 p.m.
I'm here. I love cooking. I mean, we're already digging in.
You know
Help
it's
me,
good.
Jesus,
It's
help
half
me.
gone.
Help me, Jesus.
I know. I couldn't even wait for the piece to be over to taste this burger.
Yes.
What the hell
Chef
is this?
Jay, this is amazing.
Go on, Nate.
See what all
the hype's about.
He's here,
Nate,
by the way. He
it
brought it for
delivers.
us, Chef Jay. Thank you so much
There is
for
Chef
this.
Jay.
I
Chef
know,
Jay,
I love
well
it.
done.
Well done.
Right? I mean,
Chef Jay,
Damn.
Chef Jay, will you marry me? I don't know how to cook, Chef Jay.
He's married already.
married?
Oh, well.
he's
married
taken.
already?
He's
Okay.
taken, Gail.
Never mind.
Sorry.
I'm cooking for
married
us,
man.
though.
That's all it takes, Gil?
No, this is what it takes. This
I
burger,
gotta tell you,
this chopped cheese. We've got the chopped cheese. We've got the tater tots. Chef Jay, you're a genius.
They're delicious.
Growing up as an Asian American in New Jersey, she often looked for a sense of belonging. She found it when she became a part of the hospitality industry. And now she welcomes the world to her many Philadelphia area restaurants. She's gotten acclaim, scoring top ratings and multiple James Beard Award nominations, along with other industry honors.
Ladies, how are your salads?
When it comes to the classic meet and greet, Ellen Yin is a pro.
You said you're from Philly?
For a quarter of a century, her restaurant Fork has been a mainstay in Philadelphia's Old City. And Yin, though not a chef, is eager.
How's lunch?
To feed her diners' desires.
Any feedback, any wishes, let us know.
What has kept me fueled is connection. Connection with the community, connection with my team members, having a place that people want to call home. This is my home. So when you walk in the door, Michelle, you're in my house.
The food here is locally sourced and not for waist watchers.
I love carbs, so there's a lot of carbs here.
I see you like carbs.
I love carbs and I love bread.
She provided us with a taste from all of her restaurants, starting with local grains from High Street.
One of my all-time favorites,
one?
sesame sourdough.
You kind of give me quite a slice here.
It's served with tzatziki. With that is harissa. There's a white bean salad, brassica salad, and a little cheese with za'atar.
Tzatziki is on point.
I love that.
And from A Kitchen and Bar, there was a beet salad, octopus with lyonnaise and pork belly lardon, and a soft-boiled egg with trout roe.
We also have spaghetti. So like I said, I love pasta, rice, potatoes, all those type of things. That's served with a porcini and pork ragu with crispy leeks.
Also on the table, Fork's mushroom entree, a mix of trumpet mushrooms, lion's mane, and fresh herbs.
What is that sauce?
It's pureed parsnip.
Oh, delightful.
There's also Pennsylvania brook trout.
And then, of course, I'm a cookie-holic. I'm addicted to cookies. So these are pink peppercorn meringues, rye chocolate chip cookies, and oatmeal fluffernutter. This is my favorite. So it has pink peppercorn, chocolate, and sesame.
All right. It's like a shortbread. Oh, it's delicious with the chocolate on it.
Her passion for entertaining started at home.
I got this love for hospitality from my family, from my mother, who was always entertaining large groups of people at home. She would debone this chicken, make sticky rice, and then stick it back in the chicken, truss it up, and then bake it. This is something that would take hours. And all so that our family and extended family could come together and, celebrate being together.
Yen and her siblings were raised in New Jersey by immigrant parents.
What was growing up as a Jersey girl?
A Jersey girl.
An Asian American Jersey girl.
When I grew up in New Jersey, I grew up in a small little town in Monmouth County. There were very few Asians in our community. I just always struggled with feeling like I belonged in school.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and enjoy your lunch.
And that feeling stayed with her later in life.
How was lunch?
I never really looked at myself as an Asian woman in the mirror. Of course, when I look in the mirror, I see myself as Chinese. But I never thought about all the things that it takes to create your identity and your story and how all the things that you experience in your life become part of you.
She decided to pursue hospitality after working at a local restaurant in high school. But her parents had different ideas.
Well, my father's dream was for me to become an engineer, and he was so disappointed when I failed physics in high school.
You failed physics?
I didn't fail, but I got a C.
I
that
did
was
too.
I was not good at physics.
I wasn't either.
I just couldn't understand it. But my father couldn't understand why I did not understand physics, and he felt it was a personal affront to him that I couldn't grasp the concept of gravity.
Still, her father, an engineer at Bell Labs, pushed her to the University of Pennsylvania. She thought an MBA in healthcare management might be a bridge between her heart and a corporate career.
I could just never find it. Every job that I had, I just kept going back to the restaurant industry that I loved so much.
You're gonna teach me how to make dumplings.
Yes, I am.
Your mama's dumplings.
My mom's dumplings. So we're gonna put a spoonful in the middle.
Okay, is that too much or is that perfect?
That looks pretty good.
Okay.
Yin turned to dumpling making during the pandemic with the Wonton Project, finding connection in isolation during an era of Asian American hate.
We have donated money to Advancing Justice, which is a national organization in Philadelphia, Asian Americans United. And it is designed to provide these funds on an ongoing basis.
This is really you sort of rediscovering your heritage in a crisis.
Absolutely.
Equally important as her heritage is her community.
Mayor Nutter asked if I would serve on the board because they were looking for business people who were interested in the development of the waterfront.
It's all come full circle for Yen, who's a 5-time James Beard Best Restaurateur nominee.
Restaurateurs are way more than just chefs or maitre d's or managers. They really are important to the community, and even as a nominee, I feel it's my role to continue representing the industry well in that sense and pushing it forward.
Fork really has established that area of Market Street, and folks come for the breads and the pastries and so much more. Her scone here,
delicious.
Scones are usually dry. This is just like
when not done
moist
properly
and delicious.
Look at that rhubarb pie.
The rhubarb pie, the rhubarb hibiscus daiquiri.
Jeff stole a cookie.
It's delicious. It's also good.
When it comes to restaurant choices, Italian and Japanese are well established on the American dining scene. But something unique has been popping up in cities coast to coast, a melding of the two traditions. Called wafu Italian. It's well known in Japan. But now chefs in the U.S. are taking it on and making it their own, including Robbie Felice at the newly opened Pasta Ramen in New Jersey. In this kitchen, a melding of tastes and techniques from thousands of miles apart. Ramen shrimp scampi with ponzu, tonkatsu bruschetta, and pork chop scallopini. Curiosity alone about Japanese-style Italian cuisine, known as wafu Italian, had diners buzzing here in Montclair, New Jersey, where as they step inside Pasta Ramen, they walk onto the streets of Tokyo.
Service.
Chef Robbie Felice. When we hear the name Pasta Ramen, it's not like you're just making Italian recipes with ramen noodles.
No, absolutely not.
What the 32-year-old is making is fueling the fight for reservations months in advance.
If I make a wafu Italian dish, I put you on the spot right away and say, is it Japanese or Italian? And if you have that slight pause for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds, that's wafu Italian, where you can't really tell me what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been times where I create a dish and if someone just says, oh, it's Italian, then I'm like, oh, like I messed up. I have to go back to the drawing board and I have to make this a little bit more Japanese. So I definitely think if there's that almost like slight confusion where someone can't tell what it is, then that means I did my job right.
Confusion never tasted so good. A signature dish, a chewy mochi carbonara ramen, tossed with sesame, togarashi, lemon, and Parmesan cheese, mixed tableside with egg yolk. You can't just eat it like normal ramen. All right, there's a little slurpiness to it.
You gotta be able to slurp it.
Well, in Japan, that's a sign of appreciation of a good dish, is how much you slurp the food.
Yeah. Especially ramen.
Slurping isn't necessary for these noodles. Croquette ramen.
It's basically a deep fried ramen ball. So we take ramen and we mix it with basically a wafu Italian bolognese. Ready?
I am. How do you do this? Just
dive in.
Just bite into it? Oh, wow. That is not what I expected at all.
It's gonna be nice and ooey gooey when you bite into it, and then we're going over the top with a shabu shabu sauce, tons of fresh herbs and garlic, and then we just top it off with a little Parmesan Reggiano.
Unexpected flavors that help make the restaurant an instant hit. After training in 2 Michelin-starred kitchens, Felice, a James Beard nominee, was inspired to start wafu Italian pop-ups before throwing open the doors to Pasta Ramen earlier this year.
Service.
It's part of a wave of wafu Italian restaurants showing up across the country. They've been opening to great acclaim in the past couple years especially, but they're far from revolutionary. In Japan, thousands of restaurants have been spearheading the culinary niche, also known as itameshi, for decades. Everyone has a different version of how it started, including upscale restaurants turning to Italian food as a cheaper alternative during hard financial times. But the style is clearly here to stay. At Yomenya Gomon, a national chain that started in the 1970s, spaghetti is served with non-traditional ingredients like raw egg, nori, and grated yams. Noodles are also tossed in ham, bamboo shoots, soy sauce, and butter. Flavors Japanese-American restaurant owner Daisuke Utagawa remembers fondly.
My first experience with wafu Italian, it goes way back. I think I was in elementary school in Tokyo.
Inspiration stuck. Utagawa opened Tonari, a wafu Italian restaurant in Washington, D.C., about a year and a half ago, and says both cuisines emphasize enhancing simple ingredients from the bountiful land and sea.
There's a lot of similarity between Japanese food and Italian food, especially in its approach to nature, philosophically also. I think we sort of work to enhance what the nature giveth.
And this, Utagawa says, may only be the start of a new phenomenon.
A long time ago, there was tempura and sukiyaki, right? The GIs brought back. And then came sushi in the 80s. It was a novelty, like raw fish, you know. So what's next, right? And this is easier to understand than some of the very esoteric dishes in Japan that you find. It's in a perfect position.
There's also inspiration from Italy's Italian-Japanese cuisine. That's where Felice first encountered it while training in kitchens.
You tried this food for the first time and you thought, I gotta do this.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was young, you know, probably thinking about what am I gonna eat today because I have no money, just traveling around Europe. But I definitely tried dishes in Italy that had Japanese influences or Asian influences, but you know, never really thought anything of it. Just like, oh, this is cool. They're putting yuzu on a crudo in Positano. Like, obviously there's not yuzu here, but they're doing it.
His time there inspired dishes like cacio e pepe gyoza, handcrafted Japanese dumplings stuffed with a blend of 4 cheeses.
Careful, it's hot.
Mmm. Mm-hmm.
Pretty good?
Mm-hmm. There is no graceful way to eat that, but who cares?
A delicious celebration of the two powerhouse cuisines, oceans apart, blending together with plenty in common after all.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You know, it's funny because when you think Japanese and Italian food, they do seem so different from each other, but it makes sense whenever you put it all together. And it's all about this melding. So it's not one flavor over the other.
Well, it's
too.
Oh, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
Into the food. And rightfully so, because we have a few dishes here from Chef Robbie Felice. You're eating right there the Kazuri Ramen alla Vongole, which is has clams, pancetta, and it's basically soaked into a miso soup.
Oh my gosh.
And then I also want to point out the gyoza that we were making right there that you have in your hand, Michelle.
Yeah, this is the one you really love.
Yes, cacio e pepe gyoza, 4 cheeses. All you need to know.
Kevin Tien is the creative force behind Moon Rabbit in Washington, D.C. His journey began when he went on a mission to understand his own family's history. He ultimately created a menu that moves Vietnamese cuisine forward while honoring tradition. Wee Jiang shows us how Tien found his own voice in the kitchen.
4 lamb, 1 cod.
The recent opening of Kevin Tien's latest restaurant, Moon Rabbit,
2 chickens, 2 by 2 birds.
marked the start of a new journey for the 36-year-old chef.
Fire B!
And an opportunity to bring his Vietnamese culture to the forefront of fine dining in the nation's capital.
I wanted to combine a lot of the techniques I've learned working in like other non-Vietnamese restaurants and combine it with like my family's recipes.
Tien has no formal culinary training. He learned to cook in his family's kitchen in suburban Louisiana. Tien drew inspiration from those recipes as he thought through Moon Rabbit's menu.
How often are you thinking about food?
All the time. Like it keeps me up at night, and if I do fall asleep, it's what I'm dreaming about.
And then you wake up thinking about it.
Yeah.
Hands, please.
Tien's goal is to reimagine Vietnamese food that tastes fresh yet familiar.
So the idea is like, you know, Vietnamese spicy beef noodle soup presented traditional Vietnamese way, but you can eat it with like lab night, kind of like Middle Eastern style.
Why is this happening? It tastes like a soup.
Each dish is not only meant to celebrate Tien's Vietnamese culture, but to elevate it.
This fish sauce is the bomb.
We were treated to a duck salad.
The skin is so crispy.
Lemongrass beef and grilled pork with rice noodles.
I'm gonna steal the recipe.
So my goal is to keep kind of like pushing it forward. And it's not for me, it's to kind of break through what I like to dub the bamboo ceiling of what people think about like what Asian cuisine should be. It's not cheap, it shouldn't be a hole in the wall, it belongs on a bigger stage.
Tian says Moon Rabbit is his way now of celebrating his Asian American identity. An identity he says he grappled with growing up in a mostly white neighborhood in Lafayette, Louisiana.
I really wanted to fit in so bad with these other groups of kids that I would do anything to not be Asian.
Though at home, being a first-generation Vietnamese American was inescapable. Tian says his family avoided difficult conversations about their painful past, escaping Vietnam as refugees.
My mom and my grandma didn't say much. I think food was their love language. These are the different ways that they said, hey, congratulations, hey, I love you, hey, I want you to feel better, without actually saying it.
Because in, our Asian culture, if you're from a certain generation, the words I love you, I'm sorry, they don't just flow.
They don't
right?
exist.
They don't exist. But as you mentioned, they say it through food.
Yeah. So, this is I love you. This is I'm sorry.
At just 36, Tian has cooked for the vice president and received a number of accolades. But there is a new title he's proudest of, Dad.
Is that important to you to sort of to teach your son to celebrate Vietnamese cuisine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when he starts taking Vietnamese food to school, I hope he opens it up and all of the kids are curious and he shares with everybody. Because if he's going to share, I'm going to make 30 lunches for everyone in this class.
Tian hopes food can continue to bridge generations.
And if you say the word Vietnam, a lot of people just say war as the second word to it. I think it's important to remember history, but it's also important to think about the future and move forward. And I hope when we say the word Vietnamese, the next word should be Moon Rabbit.
Well, even though he wants everyone to know about Moon Rabbit now, when Chef Kevin opened his first restaurant, he kept it a secret from his mother because food service was the last thing she wanted to be his career. We joke that the list of acceptable jobs for a child of immigrants are limited to doctor, lawyer, engineer. Chef and reporter, guys, not on the list.
Yeah, the other option is failure, as parents used to say, if you're not a doctor, lawyer, and engineer. But Weijia, I love what Tian says about the bamboo ceiling. It's something you and I have talked about before, that East Asian, Southeast Asian, South Asian food, generally in this country, is considered to be food that you don't pay a lot of money for. Right. And he's trying to change that because it's elevated cuisine that has lasted for centuries.
Exactly. He says, let's forget about the $5 banh mi or the $7 bowl of pho, because you can taste those flavors, but you can do so much more with it. And so he really thinks of it as an analogy for the way people think about not only food, but Asian American culture, which is something he really found was important to him, especially during COVID, when he really wanted people to understand better our culture. So I'm so proud of him, and his mom is now too.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but to hear him say he tried so hard to fit in, and it brought him back to home.
Yes.
That food and his culture and embracing it.
And we did the whole time. Jerika was like, Vlad, what's that? Oh my God, I want to try that. I want to try that. Weijia, thank you very much. You got to go to Moon Rabbit.
Our Jamie Wax met a Houston native, Gio Dingayan, whose dishes aren't just a feast for the eyes. The young chef shares how his own background inspired him to use flavors from the Philippines in his dishes at a Japanese restaurant, Money Cat. And that opened the door to a world of culinary possibilities.
Hands, please.
At Money Cat Restaurant in Houston, Texas, chaos isn't on the menu.
Part of the old generation of yelling and throwing pans, it's just not really sustainable for the industry today. In order for people to enjoy coming to work, you have to show them compassion before they come to cook.
Do you think there's too little of that attitude in the restaurant industry?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you.
It's a unique perspective coming from a head chef, and might stem from Gio Dingayan being younger than many cooks in similar roles. Much younger.
I have sat across from many chefs de cuisine who work in great food cities. I have never sat across from one who is 22 years old. Was there a point at which your family would come and see what you were creating and say, wow?
I would have to cook dinner like maybe once or twice a week. I have siblings, so we would all take turns kind of cooking. And it kind of just leaned into a sort of competition between me and my siblings who could cook the best. And I think I won.
What was it about him that made you take a gamble on a 22-year-old chef?
It was easy. I honestly really don't look at his age.
When Money Cat owner Sherman Young chose Dinh Nguyen to lead his kitchen, he was looking for more than just a skilled chef.
It was a no-brainer for me. I mean, not only his culinary background is good, for me, he was a good person. That's all I can really care for.
We're in the heart of Houston. You got a restaurateur owner of Chinese descent. You're of Filipino descent. And we're eating Japanese-influenced food. Could you ever have imagined this would work so well?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but it does.
They want a story, I'ma tell them that. The dishes are as much of a melting pot as Houston itself. His take on bagel and lox? Try some squiddick milk bread on for size, with a little burnt honey cream cheese, and otoro, or fatty tuna. Then,
ranch made from seaweed.
Seaweed ranch.
Seaweed ranch, yeah.
Only a brilliant 22-year-old would come up with that.
A lot of nights in the industry, you're hungry after work, you don't want to eat, and what's open? Wingstop.
Nostalgia is a driving force for Dinh Nguyen.
No, you don't cut it.
But in this kitchen, his memories are primarily of being a sous chef.
I don't know, the okra seems hard still.
To his mom, Janice.
I just love this kid. Yes. I'm so happy.
I'm her favorite.
Don't say, no, actually all of them are mine.
Dinh Nguyen grew up cooking Filipino dishes like this pork and vegetable-filled soup called sinigang. After high school, he skipped college and went straight to culinary school, which didn't go over too well at first.
Don't get her started.
It's Asian culture and everybody wants their kid to go to college. So when he told me about, I want to be, going to culinary school, I was kind of taken aback. But, I'm here to support.
I learned both pastry and savory kitchen. French training. French techniques are great. I love French food, but I'm Asian. I just have to stick to what I know.
What he knows is pretty impressive.
Matcha cheesecake.
From his award-winning bonsai tree.
With 5-step blondie, smoked marshmallow ice cream, charcoal vanilla sponge, and then a chocolate tempered tree with fresh flowers.
Brilliant idea.
To kakagori, shaved ice topped with the sweet corn he grew up eating.
That is fantastic. It tastes the honey, the sweetness of the corn. It doesn't seem over-sweetened.
The best compliment, an older Asian person can say about dessert is that it's not too sweet.
What would you tell yourself 5 years ago about the journey you're about to take and getting here?
It's a lot of hard work. You have to push yourself. You can't just like to cook. You have to love to cook. And to be serious in this industry if you want to make any change.
So if you like something as much, go do it, because this is going to break your heart.
You have to take time away from work. I do pottery. Finding balance is really important at any job, that you have a life outside of work, for sure.
I wish I was that wise at 22.
Thank you.
For CBS Mornings, Jamie Wax, Houston, Texas.
There we go, Money Cat in Houston. Yeah. Got to try it out.
I'm still thinking about burnt honey cream cheese. I would eat that on anything. That sounds so good.
I like that. Over here, sound like you was in church. You was like, all right, go ahead now.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, I liked it.
Kwoklyn Wan. He's a writer and chef who's found international success serving up the taste of his childhood. Chinese takeout. With 5 books currently in print and another about to come out, Wan has unique insight into how to recreate that delectable takeout moment. MTS Taiyab went to his home in Leicester in the British Midlands to find out why.
For Kwoklyn Wan, there's no place he'd rather be than in the kitchen.
There are 3 flavours in Cantonese cooking, which are garlic, ginger, spring onion.
He cooks in his newly remodeled home in the very same building his parents ran their Cantonese-style restaurant back in the late 1970s. For the British city of Leicester, it introduced locals to flavors from the Far East, part of a tradition that started with his grandfather, who opened his own Chinese restaurant in the area nearly 2 decades earlier. For the chef and cookbook author, these are the tastes of home. including his personal favorite, spring rolls, or what his parents had on their menus as pancake rolls.
So, any idea why these are called pancake rolls in the UK and egg rolls in the US?
I had no idea.
I've got no idea either. I was asking you.
For Wan, along with his brother and sister, helping out in the kitchen was a fact of life while growing up.
But we actually used to live upstairs as children. But that just meant we were on tap or on hand all the time. So when mum and dad got busy downstairs, it literally was, you know, someone would run up and get us, or my dad actually had an internal phone system installed in every single room.
So if you're upstairs watching TV,
it didn't matter which room you were in, the phone rang, we're busy downstairs, come and help.
Wow.
So we're going to take a one-ton wrap up.
Okay.
Okay.
Since then, little has changed. We were called on to help too, starting off making wontons.
So now just pinch them together.
Like so.
Or nearly. That's your first attempt though,
There you
isn't
go.
it? So
Yeah, let's just say I'm not a natural wonton maker.
should we just take the corner, fold it over.
To filling spring roll wrappers with a mixture of carrot, Napa cabbage, bean sprouts, and water chestnuts.
And I'm guessing this is your first spring roll wrap.
It is. How did you
done.
know? It's that
you know what?
obvious.
It's better than your one-ton wrapping.
I think so.
Perfect.
That is
There
what
you
we
go.
call a spring roll.
That's better than mine.
That's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that. That's great.
Wan is the author of several cookbooks, but a life in the kitchen isn't something he always wanted. He left home in his 20s to spend his days learning kung fu and his nights working as a bouncer at nightclubs.
Just throwing guys out of bars.
Yeah, and I literally used to bounce people out of the nightclub, and I loved every minute of it.
Going on to open his own martial arts school, where his love of teaching and food led him back to what he does best.
And I thought, well, you know what? I can cook, and I've got all these recipes that we used to cook in the restaurant. Let's teach people how to cook the food, not only the food that we were eating, but the food you were eating every time you went to a good Cantonese or Chinese takeaway or takeout. My kung po king prawns.
So Wan started posting recipes online of the takeout classics he learned to cook as a child.
Very, very, very simple sesame seed prawn toast. Now, if you like it saucy, add more salt.
Earning him a loyal following that led to regular appearances on national TV.
Pork, sugar.
And an upcoming 8-part series for Amazon.
There seems to be this undercurrent of nostalgia to what you do. Why do you think it connects with people in that way?
So when I wrote my first book, I listened to music that we listened to when I was working in the restaurant in the 1980s. And it helped me remember the feelings that I had when I was cooking or eating those dishes. I remember billows of smoke coming off the hot plates when we served the OK beef or the Canton beef.
They're trying to recreate moments with their own family when they sat around a table eating a Chinese takeout or in a restaurant much like this one used to be.
Exactly.
But for us, he cooked his all-time favorites,
You'll enjoy.
those spring rolls.
The crunch, the flavors, the freshness. Perfect.
Good. Good. I'm pleased.
Kung Pao chicken.
Is that hitting the spot?
No, that hits the spot.
Right, with the cashew nut now, and you're getting that creaminess coming through. So you've got this sensation, and your mouth kind of like goes.
Char siu pork, and a classic chow mein.
Another all-time favorite. You cannot go to a takeaway and not have chow mein.
No, definitely not. And the key to cooking really nice chow mein is to let it burn a little bit. Now, that sounds crazy, but adding that charred flavour just adds that extra element of texture and flavour.
All made with ingredients that can be found in nearly any grocery store, anywhere.
Some could argue this is not authentic. What do you say to that?
It's as authentic as you ate 30 years ago. It's as authentic as I ate 45 years ago. So why is it not authentic? Just because it, at the end of the day, every single dish that we eat now has evolved from somewhere.
And for Kwoklyn Wan, that evolution has taken place here in the house where it all began.
2 things I can do, and that's cook and kick. I'm the original Kung Fu Panda. Dumplings in Kung Fu.
Dumplings in Kung Fu.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Imtiaz Taib, Leicester.
They're visiting an award-winning Thai restaurant attracting diners all across New England. The restaurant is called Saap, and you can find it in the village of Randolph, Vermont. It is run by Chef Nisashawn Ruing Morgan and her husband, Chef Steve Morgan. She recently won the title of Best Chef in the Northeast from the prestigious James Beard Foundation. Jan Crawford went to Vermont to find out what makes Saap so special.
In this small town in central Vermont, on top of a hill in an historic Victorian home, is a revelation. Here in this tiny kitchen, with this well-worn stove, critically acclaimed chef Nisashawn Ruing Morgan is creating some of the best Thai food in America.
Fish sauce?
Her kitchen staff totals one, husband and co-chef Steve Morgan.
When you come into this restaurant, you're cooking and you're the line cook.
Yeah, we cook together.
You're the boss in the kitchen.
Every ingredient Ruing selects for its authenticity. Every dish she makes to order, skills she learned cooking in restaurants in Bangkok. She and Morgan met online more than a decade ago, connecting over their shared love of food. To be together, Ruing moved a world away.
It must have been hard at first to settle here.
I like, but I don't like cold, you know.
You like Vermont, but not the cold.
Yeah, I don't like cold, but I like here. I like, you know.
You've built a life here.
Yeah.
Blending their families, cooking the foods Ruing loved was also her connection to home, and then inspiration.
I was like, honey, you should open your own restaurant. I think we would do well, and if you cook food from home, people will travel here for it.
So how did you feel about having a restaurant?
I'm happy, you know. I don't have to thinking about I work for somebody, you know.
You work for yourself now, not for somebody else.
Did not too soft.
The distinctive flavors and dishes are inspired by food Ruing made and ate growing up in the Isan region in northern Thailand. It was there, during a visit, the couple came up with the restaurant's name.
We were sitting up in her mom's house, probably 13 of us sitting around a table, eating, and everybody was saying, Saap, Saap Lai.
Saap, Saap. When we eat food together with family, oh, this Saap, oh, this Saap.
And what does it mean?
Mean alloy, alloy.
Alloy in Thai.
Yeah, alloy Thai.
Delicious.
Yeah, that's delicious.
So Saap in Isan means delicious, and that's the name of this restaurant.
Yeah.
But it also means something in Vermont, you know, because there's syrup, sap everywhere.
Right. Making maple syrup from sap, and so it made sense.
There's no maple syrup at Saap. All the dishes, the stir-fries, seafood, salads, and soups are authentic to Ruing's region of Thailand, with a few additions, because Ruing insisted that's what Americans would want.
I never cook padซีอิ๊ว, pad Thai.
So some of the things that we think of here in America as being Thai food is not at all the kind of food that you grew up with. No pad Thai.
No.
We fought a little bit at the beginning.
You fought at the beginning?
Because I was like, we're not going to have pad Thai on the menu.
Oh, you wanted it to be more authentic.
Yeah.
So you're like, no pad Thai, none of these Americanized dishes, but you said, we want dishes Americans want to eat.
I think because I think American people love pad Thai.
I want this to be my last meal when I die.
Bruce Johnson told us he's eaten at Saap more than 100 times, driving almost an hour each way.
How's it different than a Thai restaurant?
It's not only home-style cooking, but she cooks with what she has.
Ruing's talents now have taken her places she never could have imagined.
Tell me when you got nominated for the James Beard Award. Did you ever think you would win?
James Beard, I don't know, you know. I don't know how big, how that. Now
so you didn't realize it?
Yeah, I don't know, but my husband said, oh, big.
Nisashawn Morgan.
Oh, James Beard won.
You won.
My husband cried.
You cried?
Yeah.
She is the first person in Vermont to win Best Chef in the Northeast. The award validated her belief, if you cook what you love, people will come.
You've totally improved on everything. You think it's familiar, and then you taste, and you're like, I've never tasted anything like that before.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's delicious. It's sap.
Yeah. It's sap. Yeah, it's sap.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Jan Crawford in Randolph, Vermont.
Not where you'd expect to find it, but sap means delicious, and that food certainly looks delicious. Best new chef in the Northeast. Big honor.
In a constant struggle between his American and Taiwanese backgrounds as a child, award-winning food author Frankie Gaw wanted nothing more than to fit in with his classmates in the Midwest. But as he figured out what it means to be Asian American, he was caught between homemade dumplings and Costco hot dogs. Now in his debut cookbook, First Generation, Gaw writes of family memories and self-discovery while sharing recipes rooted in Taiwan, as well as those influenced by the American culinary dream. We visited him in his home state of Ohio.
I usually do like size of a ping pong ball.
Food has always been folded into family for Frankie Gaw.
Did you see my phone?
Oh yeah, that's like our family fold.
Yeah.
He and his mother continue the tradition today. Generations huddled around the kitchen island.
What kind of dumpling flavors did Grandma make?
This one.
Now the food author is sharing his family's recipes for home-style cooking, along with dishes influenced by his Midwestern roots. What was it like growing up in Ohio?
I basically grew up in my house as a Taiwanese family, but then outside it was very much my American upbringing.
Even when Gaw left, eventually landing on the West Coast, a sense of home beckoned. The now 31-year-old was at the top of the tech industry in his 20s, helping design Facebook Live before starting a food blog. Its title, Little Fat Boy, inspired by a loving family nickname.
I knew I wanted to celebrate the food from my family and do it in a way that almost like I would approach it from like a product perspective. So to me, the product was this food that I grew up with that I hadn't really seen that much in food media.
What began as a way to document his family's recipes quickly found a following. Combining his design and photography skills, Gaw's showcase of Taiwanese home cooking won Saveur's Blog of the Year award in 2019. So this is the dough?
This is the dough.
It's not just ingredients that are featured,
Once you pull it, it'll divide it, so then you'll be able to pull it apart.
but also technique.
That's great.
Skills he passed along to me.
Did I make this too long?
No, so you can you can pull it apart here.
But the food Gaw now celebrates was once the source of embarrassment.
Perfect.
You used to be ashamed of these dishes, so much so that you would never bring them to school.
Yeah. I wanted to very much fit in within my American upbringing, and because I was one of the only Asians like within school, I already stood out.
Gaw describes emulating classmates as a way of social survival, including when his dad sent him on a camping trip with Taiwanese scallion pancakes.
But then as soon as you got on that trip, you threw it away.
Yeah, he made me a batch of pancakes that he was like, you can cook these at the campfire, it would be super cool. And I just like tossed them in the trash because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna cook these very foreign scallion pancakes in front of all of my friends who aren't Asian. It's funny now because like, I would want to make that dish over and over for all my friends today because it's just so delicious.
Instead, his lunches were a kaleidoscope of American junk food.
I would get Gushers and fruit roll-ups and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like
You went all in.
I went all in on like the Midwest like greatest hits, and that was my identity. And I still love those foods just as much as I loved my Taiwanese foods. They were, I think at that time, just very much in their own like different worlds, and I never let them kind of cross paths.
That is, until now. Gaw's deeply personal cookbook, First Generation, features traditional Taiwanese dishes like ramen noodles drizzled in a mix of ginger and garlic peanut sauce, alongside creative innovations that reflect his childhood. Gaw's Chinese sausage corn dogs pay homage to the Costco ones he'd microwave after school.
This is a very distinct flavor.
It has this interesting mix of feeling like you're at a carnival in Ohio and eating at dim sum. So
There's also chili crisp and honey roasted chicken,
yeah, go for it.
and butternut squash and pork dumplings,
What are you making, Popo?
alongside pearl meatballs like his grandmother made.
Making rice meatballs. The rice is sticky, sweet, glutinous rice. The filling is a pork and cabbage, very traditional filling with gingers and scallion.
This is delicious.
Gaw's Cincinnati chili with hand-pulled noodles are topped with Parmesan cheese. Their flavors, cumin, cinnamon, and even unsweetened chocolate. The inspiration, one of Ohio's best-known dishes, skyline chili. This is one of Cincinnati's most famous restaurants.
Yeah, this is a Cincinnati staple. They're known for their chili.
Our order, the four-way.
Thank you very much.
Ah, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much cheese.
A lot of cheese.
Spaghetti topped with chili, onions, and yes, plenty of cheese.
This became our family's tradition. I feel like one of our first truly American traditions that we kind of adopted into our own family.
You came to Skyline Chili a lot with your dad.
Yeah, this was one of his favorite places to go. He always got the chili spaghetti, so I think that would be called a two-way, technically.
Without the cheese.
Without the cheese. He was very lactose intolerant, so he couldn't eat the cheese.
Gaw's cookbook is dedicated in part to his father, Ben, who passed away from cancer in 2014. His death pushed Gaw to question who he is. And in the book, he calls himself his father's son.
You wrote a letter to your dad in this book.
Yeah, it's essentially my coming out letter to him, because I never got to come out to him before he passed. His passing was almost the catalyst for me to come out, because it was the jumpstart to a lot of me figuring out my identity. And so this is kind of me just reflecting back on my dad and the foods that he would cook for me, and me wanting to explain to him where I'm at now in my life today, if I could talk to him still.
A re-examination of food and family that led Gaw to embrace his identity. And food, he writes, has been at the heart of discovering both deep shame and overflowing pride.
A lot of my Asianness was suppressed. It's only been within the last few years where I've really thought through these recipes and these stories and taken the time to celebrate them.
The last plate on his table, a chewy butter mochi dessert topped with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal Gaw loved as a child.
Cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
His nostalgia focusing on the sweet and the bittersweet.
If there's anything that you could tell 8-year-old Frankie, what would you say?
Oh, I would say, don't chuck those scallion pancakes. They're gonna be your career one day. And I would just say, hey, in the end, no one's gonna care as much as you care. So you should just be yourself, and because in the end, it's not even gonna matter. It's only how it matters to you and where you wanna go. So I think that's what I would say to myself.
Words to live by. And we did bring that mochi that Frankie was talking about here. We actually have two sweet treats made by our producer, Emily D'Alessandro.
And yourself.
Thanks,
Emily.
And me.
And thanks, Nancy.
She made the mochi. I also made these Rice Krispie treats. They are oolong, milk tea, and almond Rice Krispie treats. And so you finally grind the oolong tea so that it really infuses all of this. It is my first time baking for y'all, so you got to tell me what you think.
It's good. I like it.
I had a little bit
Thank
of it
you
just
for
to make
doing
sure
that,
it
by
was
the way.
okay.
I know. Jeff's never baked for us.
And I never will. I do like, by the way, I do like the cheers, the dessert cheers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we-
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
I can't
kind of odd, but
There we go. Cheers.
We'll roll with it.
Chili Crisp has a long history in China, but now its popularity is blooming around the world, including right here in this country. Leading brand La Ganmao is inspiring new chefs to put their own spin on the topping. Think of something that could go on pizza, pizza dumplings, and ice cream. How does that work? Nancy Chen met one chef who adds her signature chili crisp to just about everything you can think of.
Crunchy and textured.
I love that sizzle.
A bright collision of chilies and spices simmered in oil.
It smells really good.
Chinese chili crisp isn't spicy hot, but the condiment is on fire. Long ladled onto classic Asian dishes like dumplings, noodles, and stir fries, chili crisp is exploding in popularity, even expanding to the dessert menu.
Is there anything you can't put it on?
I have yet to find something you can't put it on. If it's edible, you can put it on.
Chef and Fly by Jing CEO Jing Gao adds her unique spin to the traditional topping by sourcing 18 ingredients exclusively from her hometown in Sichuan, China.
Red chilies that are fruity, mild heat, super fragrant.
The high-quality ingredients from Chengdu, including Sichuan pepper and fermented black beans, aren't readily available elsewhere. But Gao gave us an idea how they all come together in her Los Angeles kitchen.
What is the appeal here? Is it
The spiciness, the texture.
There's something about it you can't really put your finger on, but somehow it just works with everything, right? It is basically just the components of chilies and oil. But when you add in those extra layers, that's what gives the chili crisp the extra dimension of flavor. And now the flavors are infused into the oil.
Families in China have enjoyed their own time-honored recipes.
And that's mapo tofu right there.
Yes.
But it became widely commercialized when a Chinese noodle maker bottled and branded her version, while Ganma now produces more than 1 million jars a day for fans in more than 30 countries.
We're playing a part in preserving that tradition by pushing it forward, by introducing it to new audiences. A culture and a tradition, if it doesn't evolve, it dies. So we want to play a part in evolving it in our own way.
After leaving her tech industry job, Gaw opened a restaurant in Shanghai focused on locally sourced ingredients before traveling the world as a chef in pop-up kitchens.
For a very long time, people had not just a lack of awareness about what Chinese cuisine was, but also additional bias against it.
Like that it's oily.
That it's oily, that it's unhealthy, that it's low quality and should be cheap. Right? And so if those are the attitudes that people have towards Chinese cuisine, then there's no incentive for anybody to really bring anything of quality out.
And it's about more than just the food, too, when you talk about those perceptions.
Absolutely.
In 2018, Gaw launched a viral Kickstarter campaign to fund her own signature chili crisp. And with more people cooking at home during the pandemic, her company has grown tenfold, churning out nearly 1 million jars in the past year. The U.S. chili crisp craze isn't limited to store shelves and kitchen counters. Restaurants are also making it their own.
That's two really good things together.
Famed Brooklyn pizza maker Polly G recently partnered with family-run Xi'an Famous Foods for a pie centered around their secret recipe, made up of 30 fragrant spices.
This is Xi'an Famous Pizza.
What do the chili crisps add to this?
Texture.
Even with more than 50 pizzas on the menu, G says this one quickly became a hit after its debut.
We're eating pizza that's made out of an oven that came from Italy, and it's using spice that is inspired by something that people in China have been eating for centuries.
And it's all made here in America.
Our goal is to change the conversation about Chinese food, to elevate its status in our culture. So we're really here to uplift all marginalized cultures, not just Chinese, and we're doing so through flavor.
A melting pot of taste, melding together tradition and innovation.
I have made a version of a mezcal paloma. There's a rim of mala spice.
Oh.
And then a little bit of the chili crisp oil as well.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Eric Kim. In his new cookbook, Korean American, the New York Times food columnist writes, "Getting a recipe out of my mother is like pulling teeth out of a tiger's mouth." But 2 years ago, Kim did just that, moving back home to Atlanta to translate his mother's intuitive recipes into dishes the rest of us can share with our families. I met up with Kim at the New York Times cooking studio for the ultimate home-cooked meal.
As a cooking writer for the New York Times food section, Eric Kim's job is to develop recipes delicious and accessible for all kinds of cooks.
Do you cook much at home?
Not as much as I should.
Kim does it with dishes like sheet pan bibimbap.
Bibimbap means mixed, pop means rice. Usually I do kale, but I saw some really great broccolini that was like kind of flowering. It's really pretty. So I figured we would do some broccoli action.
His version includes assorted vegetables that are chopped and oven roasted.
This is the millennial version.
It's the millennial version, I would say. Let's go.
A unique spin on the typically pan-fried Korean staple. It's a recipe he developed 2 years ago when, at 28, Kim left New York and moved to Atlanta to live with his parents while working on his cookbook.
I was coming in and telling my mom that I'm gonna do things a little differently to these very like classic dishes, you know, and an idea like this sheet pan bibimbap, she'd kind of be like, I don't know, like Koreans don't do that. But I was like, I know, but we're Korean American.
So we can do what we want.
We can do what we want.
Kim is used to writing clear and detailed instructions to make a meal and wanted to specify what he calls his mother's sonmat, or her unique taste.
For me, my mom's food is immeasurable. But as a recipe writer, I had to approximate it, at least get people like a little close with the measurements.
After spending nearly a year in the kitchen with his mom, Jean, the results of their culinary journey can be found in Kim's first cookbook, Korean American, Food That Tastes Like Home.
How joyful is it to like have a bite of food and be like, whoa, never had that taste before.
Right.
Speaking of which.
Here we go.
Let's go. I'm gonna take these out first. Good job on those. Nice. Look at that. Can you show one?
Yes. Eat as you go.
The potatoes, onions, broccolini, and mushrooms are placed in quadrants over the rice, topped with a fried egg, drizzled with sesame oil.
It's art.
It's a nice presentation. It is art. This is what is going to flavor the whole bowl.
The final step, a choice of gochujang, a fermented chili paste, or doenjang, a soybean paste.
And the final thing, there's no final thing, that's it.
That's it? Then you just have to eat it. You
Just mix it up.
You go from this beautiful thing of everything separated to
yeah.
destroy.
It's really just, it's for you. It's like.
Yeah. I love that.
It's fun, right? It's fun to eat. Deviled eggs, so.
For Kim, Korean American is more than a cookbook. It's a journey of discovery of the Korean cuisine he grew up eating and of identity. Kim's parents immigrated to the U.S. in the 1980s. Growing up in Atlanta, he began watching the Food Network as a teenager, eventually turning an interest into a career. For our dish, Kim prepared sesame soy deviled eggs with black sesame seeds, a gem salad, and creamy bucatini pasta.
Yes, Mom, cream.
He crumbles keem, a roasted seaweed, over each one.
Let's toss this. It's been,
It's an all-purpose seasoner.
I definitely
right?
use it. I definitely use it that way, and I think some people would be like, okay, enough with the keem. But for me, it's like the flavor of my childhood. I really just, everyone has the thing that really takes them back.
Yeah.
Their Prousty and Madeleine. For me, it's the taste of sesame oil, salt, and seaweed. It's just like the perfect trifecta of flavors.
An entire chapter in the cookbook is devoted to kimchi.
I love these moments, like in the book.
An example of Korean cuisine in which Kim says thyme is the main ingredient.
This is what my mom does. She flips her chopstick like this. And that means, it's usually to like mix noodles for the table, but I'm gonna do it to give you one of these.
Okay.
So then there's also this. This is Napa cabbage.
Okay.
So this is the one where probably like
This is the one that I knew always.
a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah.
But there are different kinds, and they all have different sweetnesses, like different flavors. And I mean, I'm gonna have some of this too, I think.
What does your mom think of this?
Everyone kept asking me that, and I kept forgetting to ask her. I got her on stage with me, and of course she's really proud. She's always, been someone who's like proud of her children. I've also seen her light up a little bit. This book really puts her front and center, and I'm also really glad to highlight her talent. She's a culinary artist. Like, she's a really good. I think that's something that now people get to taste.
Kim believes that true talent in the kitchen means having something to say with your food. And he says food has helped him express his true self.
What is Korean American to you?
I actually had friends who were like, maybe you should call it something more that sounds more personal. But for me, nothing could be more personal than these words. And I think it's because this book is about my journey towards accepting who I am, just like as I am. Because when I started writing this book, I was terrified of what other Koreans would think.
Really?
Because I think so often people see food or a recipe on the page and they'll be like, my mom doesn't do it like that. These flavors, they always harken back to a memory I have, a taste, a real thing. It's not fusion food. This is my life.
I love that.
Oh,
this
God.
is my life. So I did bring you a drink. Sorry, I didn't make you the bibimbap again, but that was delicious.
Or the deviled eggs.
It's the Clementine 50-50 soju, vermouth, and clementine juice. So cheers. Okay. And the cookbook's amazing.
Cheers.
I'm gonna do the bibimbap with Jack.
Bibimbap.
It's easy to make, easy to make.
I am starving after. That's good. I'm starving after watching that piece.
I know.
Really good.
And it's really this nice mix. He doesn't call it fusion because it's not fusion. It's just how he grew up eating and the way he changed some food.
The real food of India from chef Chintan Pandya and restaurateur Rani Mazumdar. The duo's latest eatery, Dhamaka, earned a spot on a New York Times list of the city's best new restaurants and was nominated by the James Beard Foundation as one of America's best new venues, with Chef Pandya singled out as one of New York's best chefs. I sat down with the pair to talk about their winning recipe for street-to-table Indian cuisine. On the Lower East Side of Manhattan, the hot ticket in town is a table in this corner of the historic Essex Market. Not even owner Rani Mazumdar and chef Chintan Pandya
We have a policy where I can't take a reservation.
Can maneuver a last-minute reservation here.
I can book a month in advance. I can put a request in for a month in advance and get it like a normal person.
Yeah.
But I cannot walk in a day before and say that I need a table tomorrow. I can't.
So basically, this is my shot.
Yeah.
Dhamaka has ignited a mantra, unapologetically Indian. And no wonder, the name itself means explosion.
The goal is to demystify Indian food. I feel that if we don't really put out there who we really are, we can't blame people for not loving it.
In bringing their restaurant to life, the duo keep to their roles.
I'm the business side of it, he's a chef.
He cooks when we want to scare away people. That's the only time the guy cooks.
And you're okay with this description?
Yes, we both know our weaknesses and our strengths. And what we don't do is we don't step into each other's business. We give each other that utmost trust.
Tell me some, was the graffiti part of the aesthetic?
It wasn't. We tried our best to clean all of these up. At some point we stopped because we said, you know what? This is Lower East Side. Let it be.
The Lower East Side has long serviced the spectrum of newcomers to this nation. The Essex Market has been an institution since being established 80 years ago as a grocery hub for Jewish and Italian immigrants. It closed before the pandemic and relocated across the street with Dhamaka front and center.
You know, I guess in the end, it's not about if the restaurant is big, small, all the accolades, take everything away. What you really have is a couple of us immigrants just sharing our cuisine in the way we want to. And I think that makes us no different than anybody else that's in the market, and that's what we're celebrating.
Mazumdar moved to New York from Calcutta when he was 12. Pandya from Mumbai in 2013. They opened their first restaurant together in 2017 and own 3 more, all under the banner of Unapologetic Foods.
I was also that kid that was trying to fit in high school or junior high and felt ashamed for what the food was being cooked at my home. So I would tell my mom not to cook that fish curry because my friends are coming home. I've been through that. As if like there's something I'm doing wrong. And I think it's not just me. Every single immigrant in this country shares a similar emotion. And somewhere there came a point for both of us. It was that I think it's time we really share who we are.
The result? What they call provincial dishes inspired by Pandya's travels across India, where he sampled food from street carts and homes in small villages.
But I was cooking to impress others, and I think the day you stop doing that and start cooking what you love to eat, the product changes.
You're sharing it.
Sharing it. This is what I want to eat. It's a real dish. It's not like I want to sell you this. No, it's something that I love to eat. Do you want to be part of that experience?
For this duo, unapologetic Indian cuisine looks like this.
Spice, meat on the bone, fish on the bone, and you start to see the vessels that they're cooked in.
On our table, we have pressure cooker pulao.
Now, when you go to a regular restaurant, when you eat a pulao, it's cooked rice and cooked chicken. But this one is actually made from raw rice. It only gets cooked when you order it.
Murg kofta, a chicken meatball stuffed with an egg.
And that's a cashew-based sauce. This is dal tadka. Dal is lentil, tadka means tempering. So this tempering is done tableside in a regular setting. This is called chapati.
Chapati!
Yeah, this is one of the most common breads that we eat, and that's a paratha.
Pork salad, house-made paneer.
We only have one kind of a cheese, a fresh cheese, which is a paneer.
And whole fried pomfret. Oh my gosh, that's perfectly seasoned.
An Indian menu as diverse as the country and its 1.3 billion residents.
It is 3 times the population of America. But if you consider the land, it is 1/3. So it's a very dense populated country, and the cuisine keeps on changing every few miles or 50, 60 miles.
So when you think of Indian food, you're essentially trying most of the stuff from Northwest.
Got it.
And you're contributing that as all of India. What the purpose of this restaurant is to put a spotlight on those regions that are overlooked. We call this is the other side of India. Oh, you're eating that together with
But
your
this
hands.
is what
Look
we
at
used
you.
to do.
Man, look
You
at
know?
you. Oh boy, you're getting there.
Pandya showed me how to make one of his favorite street foods.
We are doing this dish, it's called papri chaat. It's with flour, a little bit of, spices, everything inside it,
Okay.
and it's deep fried. And chaat is like a generic word for a street food in India.
Crumbled potatoes, tamarind chutney,
Excellent, little bit more. Then we have the sweetened yogurt.
yogurt
Which is
sauce,
spiked with
crisps,
chili
and what
red
Pandya calls
The magic spice, the spice blend.
I like spice.
That's it, perfect.
Not too much.
So take it in, take all the layers.
Okay, I'm feeling the heat now.
I told you.
and the customers are eating it up too. A testament to this team's authenticity as they change the face of Indian cuisine.
What people want to feel is first something that's real. So all we can do is put what's real, what's our truth, with our integrity out there on the table. And once people feel that, I think it will inspire a whole new generation of people that will start to think that this is okay.
My aha moment was knowing now that what we're used to is just a sliver of India.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so much more to explore.
Oh, cannot wait to taste it.